Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
As Season 5 draws to a close, we are going to bring you the highlights of the Great Debaters Contest. I am Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar, and here is an inside look on what it takes to be a great debater. Enjoy.
Political instability also makes investors to lose confidence in the country.
Insecurity and terrorism. This is a global problem. We all know that. And Africa is not spared.
Look at Africa. We are strongly against gayism. Do you know that's making us united?
We girls face the challenge of being molested, mostly by our parents and close relatives.
Machakos is one of our pioneer regions. We've been there twice now, and it was the first place we visited this year. So what stood out for you in Machakos? Austin, I'm going to ask you this as well. What do you remember about Machakos? What were the highlights of it? If there's anything you didn't like. Austin.
I start. Okay. Machakos for me was, I would say it's a first of firsts. You find like 90% of the schools that actually turned up for the regionals were fresh. They'd never been there before, and therefore they brought about a new sort of like young argument. That's what I could say. It was more youthful, although it may have been a bit not up to par as to what we're used to, but it showed us that this is where things can start from. This is where good things can actually grow from. So for me, Machakos was just a fresh cup of coffee.
I know Austin is very careful with his words. Judge Buka is a straight shooter. How is Machakos for you, Buka?
Shoot them down.
Well, not necessarily shoot them down. Here's the thing that in as much as we go into various regions and we would want to separate our preconceived notions or what we expect, I think debaters must realize that, and just going by what they have watched in this last season, that the expectations are very high. So that when I go into a region, I have a certain expectation of what a good debate is, because those guys are going to make it to the nationals if they succeed. And so being able to balance and saying, okay, when I get into this region, I shouldn't judge them like I should judge Nairobi. We want these people to be able to compete at par with everybody else. And so that raises our expectations a lot more. When we went into Machakos, of course, we went into Machakos with a lot of energy. It was a fast region we went into this last season, very excited. And I must say that I was a little disappointed because I hoped that we would see a lot more exciting debates from the region. What I liked was some consistency. Bonnie girls. I think she's Jane at Shane.
We should introduce other measures that work, create knowledge on how to weigh the situation, weigh other measures to work it out instead of the physical bit of it. It becomes more indulging when you train a 9-year-old about violence. What kind of a society are we creating for them?
Tremendous job, and the fact that she's been able to work with a team and bring them to the level at which they were able to debate was good. And I'm hoping that same energy will be spread, across the regions. I think for me, Machakos was a lot more average, and I expected much better debates from Machakos because schools have participated before from that particular region, and I was a little disappointed. Yeah.
Mina, do you share her sentiments, or was Machakos good for you, or do you also feel it was a bit subpar?
Machakos, being the first region to be trained and the first region to debate, you can imagine we went with all the energy we have and the anticipations that we were expecting from them to just, raise up, some level of debate that, that will kick off the entire regions that we were going to. I must concur with my colleague that at the end of it all, I didn't get the expectation, of the levels of debate that we expected. And that could be alluded to what I would call the team spirit. A lot of them, we had unique speakers within the schools, the individual schools. There will be one who is very outstanding, but the other two would somehow let the others down. And looking at the scores all across the regions, you could tell that the Machakos region scores were not as high, as expected. Not to say that they were the ones who performed in a dismal way, no. But to say that, this is not the first time that most of the schools there were debating, some of them have been there, Machakos school, even the host school and the rest. And so we still expect that these people are not new to this. And so, people have been watching the debates as well. So we expected that they would have done better. So I concur in a way that, we were not as energized when we left, as we went in. But we believe that now, this time round, we challenged them, that they must, go to the next level in the next season. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maina. I'm going to throw political correctness out the window and just ask Major a tough question. Do you think it's unfair for us to judge Machakos, say, by the same standards that we judge Nairobi, given the number of schools, the quality of schools? I said I'm throwing political correctness out the window. So do you think that's it's correct for us, or perhaps we should just take each region as it is and not compare it to other regions?
I think this season has taught me a lot. Machakos County, as I'll concur with my colleagues, it was a little bit substandard when it comes to their presentation. But you can just isolate, maybe not all the schools. Mboni tried, and that's why they made it all the way to the nationals. And I think schools are struggling, some schools, between the British parliamentary system of debating and the GDC format of debating, so that most of us, we come with preconceived idea on how we should debate. We don't release ourselves to our own styles of presentation. Could I just digress a little, go to Mombasa, pick Talawa, from the Aga Khan Academy, the first team. You see Talawa coming to debate, I hope I've gotten the name correct, and she is herself. In fact, she does not adhere to the conventions of debate of I'm here to present to debate on the motion that says blah, blah, blah. That boring cliche that we like using. But she comes to the stage and her first statement is, I have a confession to make. You see, it's beautiful. And she was debating on a motion that touches on bribery and corruption.
I have a confession to make. Judges, you must be listening for this. We're all guilty. I'm guilty. You're guilty. Everyone is guilty. How many of you have ever been in a car and you are given a speeding ticket, but instead of that, the police ask you for kitu kidogo, and you're like, okay, I'll pay this now. So you take out 100 bob or 200 bob in cash and you give it to the police officer saying, yeah, now I can pass this and I can keep moving on. So what I'm trying to say is that corruption is about culture. It's about our culture where we think kitu kidogo can get us out of anything.
And then when she finishes her arguments, she finishes with a shout of victory. Again, very unique to herself. We've never seen something like that.
So really, cashless transactions are the way, right? Who's with me? Woo! Thank you.
There is a struggle between tradition and an individual's talent. And what debaters need to know is that you must not stick to tradition. Let your talent come out. If you're going to force yourself into a given tradition of debating, in as much as we have the format, which is not tradition here, the format, I'm just looking at the way of debating. Tradition, I'm looking at adhering to conventions that we think defines good debating. So Machakos, I believe it is not because they are first-timers that they did not present themselves well. There's an African proverb that says a child who has never traveled always thinks the mother is the best cook. So I think it's a bit, not so much of traveling, in as much as traveling might help, just a question of realizing the best that you want to present, to offer to us. The challenge of now looking at Nairobi and saying, I want to debate like, for example, this school in Nairobi is, we are going to get into a kind of tradition again, where everybody is debating the same way. Why can't Machakos bring their variety, Meru bring their variety, and then at the end of the day, we have a cocktail of styles to sample from. So it is not, they were not disadvantaged because they were first-timers. I just think it's a question of what you have to offer to the GDC platform.
Proactively, to the judges, in a sentence, what would Machakos have done better? In a sentence.
I think for me, what was missing was the teamwork. As Maina said, you'd find, it's almost like a good debater springs from somewhere, and then the rest of the team doesn't carry through with that. If Machakos can work on teamwork, then they would really improve going forward.
Judge Maina, in a sentence.
Machakos, please prepare, be confident, and be yourself. Then you will shine. That's a sentence.
Judge Major.
Be yourself. Master your content. And when you come to the stage, it's your time. Deliver what you have to deliver to us. Don't debate to please the judges. In fact, the best thing a debater can do is please yourself. Because once you please yourself, you are happy with yourself, then the others who are listening to you will also be happy with your presentation. I think that's a sentence.
Yeah, with many commas, but it's okay.
I think we can all concur. Machakos, you are our diamond in the rough, yeah? Next year when we come, we want to see, this year, we want to see much better debates, but also with standout elements, like schools like Mboni Girls that made it to the nationals.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, we do, we appreciate you.
Well done.
When we talk about economy, this is the natural resources that we have as a country.
Self-defense training classes will give the students anticipation to learn.
A devolutionized government is better for the citizen and not for the leaders.
Culture is not the only thing that can unite Africans.
We should not only live by the A word, while family planning methods, they give us options.
As we spend more time on our gadgets, on our television, we slowly are breaking the strongest possible bonds or connection we could ever have.
Superior teachers demonstrate, but great teachers inspire.
Under no instance that we should say that industrial action should not be taken.
As we progress to the other region which you're discussing, which is Nakuru, do you think we had the same problem in Nakuru? Complacency?
I think, first of all, it was the most stable region in terms of results. There were no extremities in the results. You wouldn't find like a 40 and then someone else having 83%. I think most of the schools ranged around 60, the higher 60s actually, which is very commendable. And then Nakuru has produced giants before. Our previous last two winners, Moi Forces Academy, Lanat and Utumishi, were from that region. And of course we expected big things from them. But surprisingly, we got another breakout star, Kabarak High School. So I think Nakuru was a really good region. First of all, in that it was standard. There was nothing too extreme, no very extreme lows, but very good highs. So I think it was very interesting to see that. And I think Kabarak were a really good breakout star. I'd love to see them next year. Such, well-read people, really intelligent guys. I remember sitting there just being blown away by every other argument and hoping to see them, over and over again. So that for me made Nakuru like a really interesting, it's one of my favorite regions if I had to pick out of the 10.
Mariam has talked about Kabarak being her breakout star. Judge Buka, what was your breakout star?
Well, I must say that I didn't judge the Nakuru debates. Judge Ann did.
And again, the issue of origin of ideas and where you're citing from, just let it come out very, very clearly.
And she did a commendable job in sitting in for me. I think I'll just talk about, Nakuru region in general. And, having won the Great Debaters Contest twice is no mean feat. And it's an interesting region. It's one that regions like Nairobi and Mombasa need to watch. Because you find this, in terms of, the debaters, when you look at them before they get on stage, they're very calm, But when they get on the stage, the execution is, something out of this world. And we've seen that in the previous years. And I think for me that surprise factor is something that is always worth looking out for when you get into Nakuru. Yeah.
Judge Maina, your breakout star.
Star.
You were there, by the way.
Yes, I was there. Nakuru is quite interesting. It's the home of the giants for us as GDC because twice they've taken the day. Tumishi Academy, Moi Forces Lenet, and of course the new entrant in the region then, Kabarak. I don't know what to say because we always went there, and we've always been there, expecting, high-end results because of the performance over the years. But this time round, it was interesting to see, the Giants also get knocked down in a way. And I think at times because of the, the changes that we normally see with the participants, which was also a very unfortunate thing for Kabarak when they came for the nationals. things change over time. And I think this is an encouraging trend for participating schools, because it's not a constant, But for Utumishi, we still had one constant member. Ian Wafula, was there.
Placing taxes based on consequent pollution emission in the environment suggests that the polluters are given a right to emit taxes to or at a near existing emission level. But then, if they're allowed to do this, or they're given the right, is it not that they've just been given a VIP ticket to pollute the environment? It doesn't actually solve the question at hand.
But he also met his match with Kabrak, and Kabrak demonstrated very awesome teamwork.
In 2014, 19th of June, the United States Department of State gave a warning to its citizens for coming to Africa, to Kenya rather, because of terrorism, something that was caused by the Al-Shabaab. That is not poaching to me.
We were all here during the 2008 post-election violence. 80% of tourism revenue was lost by Kenya Wildlife Services. Do you know, in a struggling economy like now, you have 100 shillings. They take 80%. What do you have?
Poaching is the major threat to tourism in Africa. That is the question. The key word is major. The key word is a lie.
Of course, Ian Afula was still excellent, but the fact that he didn't have the former team members, the two of them, of course, was quite a disadvantage in itself. And, it's all about preparedness. So for me, the star, of course, of the day was Kabrak, because they took the day. But it was interesting to see the other schools as well perform well. So we were not disappointed by the region, and the turn-up, oh my goodness, it was awesome.
Judge Major, let's zero in on the presentations. Was there a debater or a student that actually stood out, and what do you think wowed you about them?
Okay. Schools, I'll start with Moi High School Kabarak. I'll also touch on Moi Forces Academy Lanet. It's important to note, I know she debated some time back, Anne Omondi. She was a debater at Moi Forces Academy Lanet, and I think I loved her style of debating. It's quite a disappointment that maybe this time round, Moi Forces Academy Lanet could not proceed to the next level. But I want to assume that they had very good presentations, especially the first debater. I just enjoyed the presentations.
This is a condom. This is an emergency pill. Just some of the methods of family planning. Do you think that introducing this to our students would actually curb early pregnancy when you're making people who are not aware of certain things to actually start thinking of premarital sex? Someone who had never thought of sex before, through this family planning education, you're making them want to experiment.
Something about Moi High School Kabarak, that school or those debaters were just unique. I was disappointed when they didn't show up for the nationals, because I'm sure had they shown up for the nationals, then it would have been a very difficult debate to judge. Most of the time when we give students motions to do with natural resources, students will always limit themselves to a given country. Moi High School Kabarak were dealing with a motion that touched on resources. Believe you me, they were able to diversify the examples, to zero in on countries and pick on natural resources that maybe you didn't even think about, and brought out their arguments quite well. I just remembered mentioning the other episode of one debater who said that it's quite unexpected that a ship is sinking and then you're busy shouting to the waiter, asking him which kind of wine he's going to serve.
Stop looking at a sinking ship and wondering about the wine the guests shall be served. Let's think about saving the ship, which is our tourism industry. Please, Africa, I think it is time that we stand up, that we wake up. I think that it is time. Time.
Styles were there, varieties were there. I remember there were two gentlemen and one lady. Beautiful presentation. So Nakuru, as it has been said, is a region to watch. Wafula has been mentioned, and Utumishi, I think the disadvantage there was teamwork. He was there, never disappointing as always, but you see the people are not there to support him. I remember one of the team members, the third speaker, was reading a lot.
While even with the increased taxes, the same level of pollution enters into the environment. The intended reduction can always be negated, and the more expansory the industry in an economy, the greater the likelihood of this result.
So we did not see mature debaters who are able to come and give support to the other debaters. But believe you me, it's a region to watch, as the other judges have mentioned, because we have produced 2 giants before, and I believe there is something beautiful about it. Possibly Moi High School Kabara could have taken it this year round, only that they changed their debaters. So maybe next year, they'll be there. We shall see what will happen.
You know, Moi High School Kabarak this year, Utumishi Boys Academy, Moi Forces Academy, Lanet. What is Nakuru doing different that it's producing these giants? What do you think is Nakuru's advantage over other regions? Maina?
I wouldn't point out something specific that they do, but I think because all the regions have equal times of preparation, they are not given diverse topics that some are quite hard than the others. And so they have equal opportunities for them to really portray their best. But I think it's also the level of research, and I would want to use the word seriousness that is taken in by some regions. Needless to say, when you compare also Nairobi this time around and Nakuru, you would still say there could be battle, comparing just the two off my head right now.
One of the advantages of democracy is this. When we are choosing our leaders, we choose the team that wants to have the majority and the minority which make up the opposition team. What is the purpose of the opposition? The opposition are there to serve as watchdogs.
But I must say that the fact that you won once and then another time, that makes you still feel, you can still win again.
Yeah.
So I think there's always that enthusiasm that, we're winners. So maybe that's the A game that they bring on board, that, we can always make it. We're the region that has taken it twice, so who says we can't have it at that time?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, just motivates them.
I remember one of the previous debaters from Moi Forces Academy, Lynette, Lillian Konika. And I remember, when we went, to the region in the previous season, she was the one preparing the debaters and urging them on and telling them, at the end of the debate, this is where you needed to have improved on. Somebody who understands that my strength might not necessarily be on the stage, but I can work behind the scenes and, prepare such a powerful team all the way to, to the nationals.
Areas these days are becoming drier, leading to chronic food insecurity.
When you're going to profile these people suffering from HIV and AIDS, we are going to create awareness to people that HIV is real. They need to protect themselves.
When I use Facebook, the government will earn. And at the same time, those people who are in charge of Facebook are going to earn at the same time.
We have stopped funding agriculture and we have funded CCTVs.
You've had all it takes to make this show great. I am Austin Yimbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Catch us tomorrow for more highlights from all over the country.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.